All right. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for joining us for another episode. I know it's been a bit, to be honest, life has been a bit busy, so I haven't been recording as consistently as I should have been, but we're back with a special guest. We got Mr. Anthony Pluff in the building today. Anthony is an online coach who helps dads over 30 lose 20 to 50 pounds and increase their energy and confidence so they can look and feel like a role model for their kids. Anthony, my man, it's good to have you on the podcast.
Hey, thanks, John. Appreciate you having me on. It's good to talk to you. We've gotten to know each other a little bit over the past year or so I'm excited to be on the show.
Yeah. We did almost like a mini cast on Instagram Live. I think it was in April, right?
Yeah, it was.
That was kind of fun.
Yeah, last spring or something. Yep.
Yeah, so we'll dig in a little bit deeper into this one. But yeah, for those that don't know you, I want to get to know you a little bit more as well, because I don't think I know your full kind of backstory. But like, what got you into fitness? What was kind of your origin story here into fitness, and then what made you become a coach?
Yeah, I would say, always pretty active growing up. Love sports. Baseball was always my favorite, doing things like that. My kind of intro to kind of getting into athletics and things like that was, I'm only 5'5". I'm a pretty small guy. And so obviously if I wanted to compete, I needed to, improve my own skills and stuff. I was a small guy on the field and stuff. And so I started doing plyometrics and things like that when I was in probably 12. I saved up my money, bought a pro. I think it was called Air Alert. I don't think it's a program anymore, but wanted to kind of separate myself a little bit, just because wanted to make sure I got playing time and kind of instill that work ethic and stuff. And I think it really did. It kind of had a pretty big impact on me. So that's kind of how I got. Just really started liking working out, doing push-ups, pull-ups, things like that. Never really got into weightlifting until probably about college. Did a little bit in like PE class in high school, but nothing too serious. I would say when I was about 16, I started having some back pain, and I was told for a long time, like, you're too young to be having back pain and stuff, and that immediately ended my pain right there, right? But no. So I went kind of years, probably 10, 15 years, up until really pretty recently, where I kind of struggled with back pain. Couldn't quite get rid of it. Would get better for a while. So, doctors, chiropractor, massage, all these things. And I would say that was a big part of what made me want to become a coach. I had looked into kind of physical therapy and things like that, but I really liked the preventative side. If I could help people, never deal with these issues, because, being a young kid and then being, a husband and a young dad as well, having those pains, it's no fun, not being able to do things that you want to from something that, could have been solved if you had the right tools and, followed something consistently. So I think that's really probably the biggest reason why I kind of got into coaching. And I think when I first got into coaching, I was just kind of training everybody, working at a gym and just taking clients, whoever was there. You just kind of work with everybody, which is actually a blessing, because you get to learn who you want to help, who maybe you're not excited to work with. And it also gives you lots of experience and what works, what doesn't work, and you get that instant feedback. And so I think that really helped me in the online space. If I never would have had those experiences, I think I would have struggled, because I wouldn't have understood what people were going through. And so it's been a pretty interesting path, kind of how I got to here today. I went to school, undergrad in kinesiology, exercise science. I got my master's in education, so teaching. I'm teaching health now, as well as coaching online, and so I love teaching. I love teaching people just kind of how to improve their lives. So hopefully that answered the question. Kind of went a roundabout way there, but
No, yeah, that definitely answers it. I mean, if anyone's known for like tangent answers, it's me. So I can follow along. Was your back pain ever like diagnosed? Did you ever figure out what it was? Like, that is a young age. Like, and I was, I guess you can say I had poor posture. I played hockey my whole life, and I was always like hunched over, but I never had like, my only big back pain issue was was sciatica. Like I got it diagnosed and stuff like that. But for you at 16, like, did they ever say what it could have been or what it was, and how have you like solved that over the years?
Yeah, so I at first when it first happened, I wasn't honestly sure how it happened. Just trying and figure out what happened. The only thing I could really think of is I went on a mission trip when I was in high school, and we were like helping build houses. And so we're shoveling all day long, like 8 hours all day, just building houses. And like you said, like not poor posture, things like that, not great form. Like I said, I never really got into weightlifting until I was older. And so everything I did learn was on my own. And so I'm sure my form wasn't great. I did get diagnosed. I did have a herniated disc in my back. Let's see, L5, S1, pretty low, and so that it would kind of flare up. It wasn't to the point where like I couldn't do any, I could still do stuff. It just hurt. It did kind of get to a point where like if I went and played basketball, like I couldn't walk the next day. Like I'd literally be in bed for a couple of days. It would get better. I started doing some stuff for it, and I thought I was better. One day I was playing kickball with some middle school kids, and I kicked the ball, and I could not walk. And then I went like a week where I literally could not move. Like at that time I was like early 20s, and so it's like usually patients are 40, 50, older, a lot older than I was and stuff. So I was kind of an anomaly with a lot of these things, and so to be honest, I wouldn't say it is 100% healed. There's still stuff I have to deal with, like kind of do consistently, and that took me a really long time to learn. Like, like my situation is unique. Not everybody has these issues, but these are the ones that I'm dealing with, and so if I stay consistent with it, I know what kind of helps me and things like that. But yeah, overall, herniated disc was kind of the main thing there, and then just kind of getting out of my own way. I was never one to want to take time off and things like that. I tore my quad when I was in middle school, and it never healed properly because I never let it rest and things like that. And so, maybe that contributes to a little of it as well, but.
I mean, men in their like late teens, early 20s are known to do stupid shit too. Like I've been there. Like I used to play hockey. I definitely like my right shoulder. Anyone watching this video might be able to tell. Like my right shoulder sits forward because I got drilled from behind into the boards, and my shoulder was messed up. Do you think I went to physical therapy to kind of get it fixed? So it's kind of been one of those things where it's repeated. I used to be told like because I carry my hockey bag on my right shoulder, and like that's probably not it. There's probably some underlying issues there. My right shoulder's always given me issues. Yeah. Maybe not so much lately because I don't do as much like barbell pressing or super heavy loads, but there was always like something wrong with my right shoulder. And I'm like, it's because I didn't get it fixed. And then the amount of times I hurt my back in the gym pre-sciatica was just because I didn't warm up. Like I can remember vividly one day, cold morning, went to the gym, first exercise, one arm dumbbell row off the rack. I grabbed the dumbbell. I didn't do a warm-up set. Just grabbed I think it was like 70 or 80 at the time. Yeah. Couple reps, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's my back. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll lay down. Okay, and then I finished the workout. And I did that. I remember I would tweak my back in a workout, and I would push and I would push and I would push. And then I look back, I'm like, that was so dumb. Like as a 33-year-old, the minute I feel something on my back, I'm like, okay, I got to take care of this right now. Like I don't want to make this worse. I got to walk. I got kids. I got to do all this stuff. So maybe you can attest that. Maybe you can. And maybe you just had the shit end of the stick on the luck factor too. Yeah, no, I think, you kind of nailed it there. I just taking the time, once I started feeling better, I would have this plan. Okay, I'm going to take these couple weeks and just focus on getting better, not worrying about the gym. But as soon as I started feeling better, I would jump right back in to the gym. I'd feel good for a while, and that's probably, to be honest, that's probably why it took so long. It's probably why it never fully healed or hasn't fully, because I just haven't taken that time. So that's something I've learned too. It just you get in your head like, oh, I put all this work in to get to where I am, and then if I take a month off from lifting, like I'm gonna lose it all. But that's really not the case. It's really not the case. But looking back, if I would have just
did what I needed to, 10 plus years ago, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wouldn't say it's all for naught because I've been able to try a lot of different things. I have a lot of experience, and then I can teach other. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
kind of a lot of and I've also found like what works for me, what doesn't work for me, and stuff. And so it kind of gives me a knowledge base as well, and I feel like it's made me a better coach overall.
Hmm. That's good. You spin it for a positive. Yeah. Because I mean, with you working with dads, like how many of them come in with back pain already?
Yeah, yeah. So back pain, shoulder pain, like you said. Those are two probably the biggest, and a lot of it. I mean, a lot of it, kind of like what you said there, just poor posture. We're sitting down. We're sitting down a lot of it. Like I know for me, like working from home, I have to go on walks regularly. I try and
Hmm.
start each day with a walk. Try and go over one for lunch. It doesn't always happen, but I feel it if I don't. If I don't, my hips get a little tight. Um, just things like that. And with dads, yeah, specifically, back pain is huge, and we're all we're very stubborn. We're very
Hmm.
stubborn. We don't want to ask for help. We don't, what we just talked about, we don't let things heal, because we want to tough through it and stuff. But the only person that ends up suffering is you. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and depending on the case, like your kids can suffer too. Like I remember when I had sciatica, again, it was my own fault. Like I've always had these like low back issues for a while, and I was playing hockey, and from time to time I leave a game feeling a little sore, it was kind of normal.
mhm.
Because all I did was I played men's league once a week, and I was at the gym a few times a week. And then I remember the next day I went to do a leg workout, and there was one machine that I never really used before, and this day I used it.
Mm,
Yeah, that was a big regret. So I felt a tweak, and I'm like, okay, I won't do this machine anymore. So I did something else, and I did something, and then it was just I was fucked from there. Like, and I remember like that got so bad that like picking my son up off the floor was impossible. Like I was like on the floor with him, and he was 3, just under 3, around 3 at the time. So like he was busy, like they were running around, they want you to
yeah,
play, and I'm like, I can't move, dude. Like it was
yeah,
really hard. So like any dads going through back pain and things like that, like yes, it affects you, but it definitely affects those around you too. Because if you're unable to do what you need to do as a father,
mm,
it sucks. Like mentally, that took a huge toll on me there, just doing that too.
yeah, yeah. No, I remember when my son was little, but more recently, like when my daughter was younger, like in the crib, picking up like just
Hmm.
that movement there, like I wasn't hinging at the hips, and so just picking them up, that they're not very heavy when they're in the crib, but
No.
just that force, on my back would cause a lot of pain. So yeah, that's definitely kind of motivation there. But can I guess what machine it was that hurt your back?
Yeah, go for it.
the the one that always got me was like the incline sled. Uh,
Oh, the
like it
leg,
kind
like
of
leg press?
yeah.
No, surprisingly, this
No.
time it wasn't that. It was this weird, like, I love the machine. I love the mechanics. The gym I was at, like I think he built that one.
Uh-huh.
It was like a standing squat where like
Okay.
you plate load the side,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there was cushions on your shoulders, and you can
Yep.
like almost unrack it. You can do Bulgarians out of it. But
Okay.
for me, I never found comfortable mechanics with it,
Gotcha.
even with the split squat. So that one, yeah, that one just usually the leg press has hurt me in the past.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Once you said it, yeah, definitely lift my ass up off the seat and kind of let my back, get a little curve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, in terms of like picking up your kids, have you found a comfortable way to take them in and out of their car seat? Because I find that
Mm.
was way more uncomfortable than the crib because the
Yeah.
rotating, putting them in.
Right. Yeah. This. Yeah. That's that's a tricky one too. Especially to just get them off the ground. I always try like try and there's a book from Stuart McGill called The Back Mechanic.
Yes.
It's a great read. I actually catching up on some things today, but he kind of talks about like kind of like spinal hygiene and spine sparing movements and things like that. And so like one of the things he mentions in there is like instead of bending over to tie your shoes, although it's
Yeah.
like low weight, there's not a lot of pressure there, but how
Hmm.
many times are you doing that? Those little motions throughout the day. And so like lifting your foot up. And so that's what I started doing with the car seat, like always having it on the table. And so when I
Oh.
put like when you put your daughter or your son in the car seat, you're not bending into the ground, and so like the amount of times you can reduce some of those things, and then in the car seat, hopefully you're not carrying that car seat too long,
Hmm.
but when you get it in the car, like it's already at like hip height there, and so you're not quite going as far. But yeah, some of those twisting movements can be
Yeah.
that's kind of where that core strength comes in too, and just kind of sometimes too it does suck, but asking your wife for help,
Hmm.
that one took me a long time to to
Yeah.
get to, just because you don't that's one thing. Like I want to be able to lift up my kids. I could deal with a little pain, but if you do it for too long, then it's gonna stay around
Yeah.
a long time. So
It's dropping the that little bit of the ego that we all have inside of us
yep,
and the pride. Yeah. The rotating motion always messed me up. That was one
yep,
big thing that I had to like. And hockey's a ton of rotation. Like skating
hmm
itself has rotation, so I'm like, it was really tough. But taking the car seat out and putting them in the car seat on a table, and then you just have to versus trying
yeah,
to lean over and strap them in. Like that was always
yeah,
nightmarish. I do definitely remember that.
yeah,
Um, any dads listening to this, these are pro tips from two men who've experienced some really shitty back pain for sure. And we're
yeah,
young too. Like I'm only
yeah.
33. We're not in our 40s.
No,
But I think we're on the path to bulletproof our backs heading
yeah,
that way
that's the
because I think
goal.
we don't want to go. Yeah, we don't want to go
Yeah,
backwards.
but
Um,
you're also a pretty tall guy too, right?
yeah, 6'3" ish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so like for me, like I'm 5'5", and so putting them in the car is a totally different experience than for you. And
true.
so it's like it's really important for you to really hinge at the what I mean? That's a pretty far, like depending on what kind of car you have, like
Yeah.
that's a pretty far gotta have a lot of mobility there.
It was yeah, it was always uncomfortable. Now we have an SUV, so it's easier. But then my kids are
hmm
older, so it's not as much of the
Right. They
baby
can get
seats and
themselves
stuff.
in, you just have to buckle them or something,
The
yeah.
best. No, my 6-year-old
Yeah.
can buckle himself. It's great.
Okay,
I love it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And when
good.
you get to that point in parenthood, you're like, oh yes, he can do it by himself. Like one less thing
Nice.
to worry about.
Nice.
When it comes to core strength though, this is interesting and probably doesn't just apply to dads, but I feel like I fit this category.
hmm
I feel like it becomes like a lazy posture in the low
hmm
back. Like if we're sitting all day, like I know when I'm slouched in my low back, and I know when I don't watch this camera think I'm being weird, but like I
Yeah.
can tell when my core is engaged or not. Do you feel like we just have lazy like habits when it comes to just sitting, and that
Yeah,
weakens our core, and that kind of leads to the back pain?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of it, and I think some of it gets overlooked is like the thoracic. So if you're not familiar with the term, that's going to be like your upper back there. So
Hmm.
like we're kind of hunched over there. A lot of times that can cause a lot of stress too. And an easy test you can do is if you put your hands on your low back and you lean forward, you'll find a point where all of a sudden your low back gets tense.
Hmm.
And if you kind of lean back, put your chest back a little bit, you can find a point where it starts to relax a little bit. And so that's probably closer to the posture where you're going to want to be naturally. And so
Hmm.
even if you're slightly tilted forward here, it's putting some tension on your low back. And think if you're doing that 8 hours a day, every single day. And so, yes, it is low. A lot of times, like, and I'm going to say this with a grain of salt here because I'm not going to I'm not qualified to diagnose people, but when you're feeling the pain in an area, it doesn't necessarily mean that area is what the actual issue is. That's where the
Hmm.
symptoms are. That's where the
Yep.
symptoms are. But that, like you said, kind of like with your shoulder there, I had some shoulder issues playing baseball, throwing up, and so or growing up, and so like my shoulders were real tight, my chest was real tight, and so that was one of the things I had to improve. That actually helped my low back a lot. Was from sitting at a desk, I have to be very aware of my posture because if I have my arms in front of me too long, I'm going to start to slouch because I just get
Yeah.
tired. I just get a
Yep.
little fatigued there. I don't even realize it, right? I bought a mirror to put in to put in my office, and so I can actually see myself every once in a while. And it's just kind of a good. That wasn't the intention of the mirror, but it works. It works really well. But
Yeah.
and I think a lot of times, it's just like everything we do, we're watching TV. How many people sit up straight watching TV? You're sitting in a car.
I don't know
How
anybody.
aware are you? Like your posture is. You're texting. Most people don't have it in front of their face. They're looking down. You're reading a book. You're looking down. And so everything we're doing is just causing more and more of this. And that can go back to, I mean, that I think that's really important for like your strength training program too, to kind of address some of these things. And, you know, a good coach who has gone through a lot of these things can help with that, because everybody wants a big bench, right? But if it's causing you pain, like I haven't, nobody's asked me how much I benched in years, right? Nobody cares.
It's one of those things that no one really cares anymore. Yeah. When you see it, you're like, that's impressive.
Yeah.
But then you get to a point, and I think that's just maturity in the gym.
Yeah.
You know, John Goodman talks a lot about that. You know, I like to name drop this guy all the time, but you know, as you get older, like why you do this stuff changes. Like for me, there's always an aesthetic piece to working out, even though I'm a dad.
Yeah.
But I also want to be strong. Like my 6-year-old watched me carry a couch out from my basement and then set it up upstairs and bring another couch downstairs. And he was just like in awe. And I'm like, this is super cool, because he looks at me like a superhero, even though he still tells me he can beat me up, which is always fun. But you know, as for dads coming in that start working with you, like, what, I know you said you help them lose fat. Is that usually their main thing? Is like, I want to lose fat, or is pain reduction a big point? Is it just healthier habits? Like, what is it with them?
Yeah. So typically when we first start, you know, fat loss is going to be the number one. Weight loss, you know, kind of losing their gut. But then a lot of changes happen along the way, especially for those clients that stick around for a long time. They realize like there's much more to this whole fitness thing than just losing weight. Like getting stronger in the gym, like that's huge. And like I'll be the first to admit, like part of the reason why I work out is because I like the way it makes me look. I like the way it makes me feel, right? Being able to be the person where people call to help you move, like it's a good feeling. You know what I mean? It's like, and it may sound like, I think that's hard for people to admit sometimes, that like, hey, I want to look good in the mirror. I want to feel comfortable with my shirt off at the beach. But whether that's, you know, like how you like saying that's not really what you want, even if when it really is, like there's going to be, I think that's why people lack motivation sometimes.
They're afraid to say what they really, really want.
They're afraid to say what they really want. A lot of dads, when I start working with them, they'll say like, you know, I want to do this for my kids. And that sounds great. And that's awesome. Like part of the reason I work out, like part of the reason why I have been like on a quest to fix my back pain is because I don't want to be able to say no to my kid, you know. When they want to play tag outside, I want to never have to say no, right? I want to be able to go with them. But if your real reason you want to work out is because you want to look good at the beach, then you have to be honest with yourself about that, because on those cold mornings when you're going to the gym, it's 20 degrees outside, it's 6 a.m., your kids aren't going to be there with you. You're going to be there with you. And so you got to remember why you do it. And that's one of the things we focus on is like, what's your real reason for doing this? You know, like being able to play with your kids that's awesome. And if that is your reason, you know, that's awesome. Dive into that, you know, dig deep on that and keep going. But if the reason is like, you want to increase your confidence, or you know, you just want to feel better. You want to be more respected at work. You know, we want to be maybe in your marriage. That's something that's hard to admit too. Like you want to have more respect. You want to, you know, you want to feel better. You know, have more confidence in every area of your life. That's one of the things we kind of dive in, is kind of finding like what your real reason is, and that's gonna, like, if we only work together for 12 weeks or 6 months, like I understand I'm not going to work with somebody forever. So I want to make sure you have the tools to succeed, you know, for the rest of your life. And so I think part of that is just being honest with yourself. And like we talked about, dads can be stubborn, right? And having those open conversations, having real conversations are hard, but those are probably also going to be the most rewarding ones.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I mean, so I grew up pretty like self-conscious. Like I wasn't ever really confident. I put on a face. My wife's she'll bug me from time to time that like in high school, I came across as like the cocky jock, which is funny to me because on the inside, like I was always anxious and self-conscious about what I looked like and how I felt. I was overweight. So like for me, I've always said it and I stand by it. And if it makes me seem like a narcissist or a dick, then whatever. But I want to be that dad that other dads are like, holy shit, like I want to
Yeah.
look like that guy. And then the moms are like, wow, like I wish my husband looked like that. Like, you know what I mean? That really
Yeah.
just separate myself. And I had an enrollment call with, she became a client early this year, and she's kind of the same boat. She's like, look, I want to go to the beach, and I want to be like, I'm that mom. Like, I'm the one. I look great. I feel great. Everyone's looking at me. I'm like, thank you for being honest with me, because you're right. I think a lot of people are just, I think part of it is there's a big movement against focusing on aesthetics as if it's a bad thing, right? There's a lot of like, don't focus on this, don't focus on that. So I think sometimes people just feel suppressed, or they're not allowed, or shouldn't have those thoughts. And I think some of it is they're scared to admit, because if they say it out loud, it's real. And if it's real, then are they going to work towards it? Or like it becomes a real issue if they say things out loud, like you said about marriage. If there's any couples out there that, like, you're not having sex with your partner for months or years on end, like, that's a scary thing. Like, that's a big issue. And if it's never talked about, you know what I mean? So I think you're right, man. I think part of it is just they're not comfortable, or they're not getting out of their comfort zone, or it's just like once they say it and it becomes real, then it's like, okay, well, do I make a change? Do I stay the same? And I think that's the biggest stressor for people of like, are they going to do this thing or not? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, I think that's really big and really important. And one thing that it took me a really long time, and I still have to remind myself of this, is like, your fitness goals are yours. They're not your
Nice.
wife's. They're not your family's. And that took me a long time, because I used to, like, obviously I value my wife's opinion, but I probably used to value it more than my own. And that's a spot where can be really hard. And I see it that a lot of times with dads, is especially when they're starting a program. Well, I got to talk to my wife about this and stuff. If it's financial, absolutely. If it, but if this is about your health, like, this is your life, right? This is your life. And I think, like, it's natural to care about other people's opinions, but when you start caring about other people's opinions more than your own, then I think that's where people struggle. Because if you start a workout program, you want to get more mobility so you can play with your kids, but your real motivation is, I want to have a six pack and look great I want to go to the beach, and like you said,
Yeah.
I want people to look at me and be like, wow, I want to be that kind of dad. But if you start a program looking to increase your mobility and lose 5 or 10 pounds, how long are you going to stick with that program?
It's true.
Right? Like, if you don't love what you're doing, if you're not I think a lot of times people struggle with motivation is because they don't actually care about what they're doing. And like, I know you talk about this a lot, but kind of motivation is going to come and go. Action comes before motivation, but a lot of times we're working towards things we don't really care about. And we think we care about them because we're listening to so many other people's opinions. Like, I remember just even in like high school or something, you overhear like girls or other guys talk about, oh, well, look at this guy, or did you see, you know what I mean? And then you're like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do these lifts or something like that. Maybe I really don't care if I have big biceps or something. And it's like,
Yeah.
but I think that's where it's like, you have to start valuing your own opinion, because most of the people, if you think back up at the decisions you made based on other people's opinions, chances are they're not even a big part of your life now. So.
That's a huge piece. Yeah. And I mean, that can go back to like the big bench thing. Like, is a big bench important, or is it just important because like guys use it as a measuring contest across the gym and across the fitness sphere? Yeah. Is it really that important to you? And I think the decision-making thing is huge. And family, especially family, spouses and family, they can be how do I want to put this? They can be the reason you never reach success in your fitness journey, or they can be the reason that you do.
Yeah.
Like, I think it can go either way. If you have a supportive spouse, all the power to you, like, take that and run. If you don't have a supportive spouse, and I've seen it, I work with clients, unfortunately, who their spouses are almost like sabotage their journey, and constantly order takeout or constantly have snacks, even though they couldn't control it, would bicker at them if they wanted to go to the gym. Like, that's tough, man. So, like, and as you put it, like, valuing their opinion on what you should be doing over your own, you're not putting yourself first, And I'm a big believer that we all need to put ourselves first. Like, I think even as a dad, I know moms have a real hard time with this. When you put yourself first, you show up better to everybody around you. I know, Anthony, I know you can attest to this. You're dad of multiple children. You teach, you coach, you run a business, you're a husband. Like, when you feel your best, does everyone around you feel that? And then when you feel your worst, does everyone else feel that around you?
Yeah, definitely. And that, I think that, like, I would say even in the last year, that is a mindset shift I've always thought it was selfish to put myself first.
Mm-hmm.
And I've definitely started learning, like, it's selfish not to put myself first because
Nice.
I'm a natural night owl. I'd be tired all day. I could stay up super late and be fine. And but as a dad, that doesn't bode well. And so I've made it a point to be a morning person. And so I try and be. My wife naturally wakes up pretty early, and so there's many times where she'll beat me getting up in the morning. But like we kind of do our own things in the morning now. So before the kids get up, I kind of spend that first hour. I kind of have a morning routine that I've been following, and just the way I feel the rest of the day is, just spend, on the days I don't get up early, the days, I kind of fall back into my old routines, I notice that. And so that's something I always do. Make sure I'm scheduling my workouts. And I think it's important too, to make sure your wife schedules her workouts too. Cause that's, like sometimes you can't be selfish with it, right? I'll admit I can be selfish with it. Like, this is when I'm doing my workout at home, and I don't think about her at all. And I think it is different if you're in a relationship. You do kind of have to balance that. Like, I work out almost every day. I do something I don't strength train every day. Try and do cardio, something like that, every day. But a lot of times I forget, like, she needs that too. And so, if I can only do 4 days a week, 5 days a week instead of 7 days a week, then I think that's a sacrifice I need to make, So I think when you are in a relationship, things are a little different than if you're maybe a single dad or a single mom there. But what you said earlier about, like, kind of your wife or your spouse sabotaging you. I had a client I worked with last year. He was awesome. But I remember when on our enrollment call, he had told me he always felt like every time he made progress, that's when his wife would order pizza, or that's when she would bring all this food. And it was like, she was super supportive in what she said, but kind of how, oh, like, you're going to work out again? I thought maybe we could, and just things like that. And so I always tell, like, especially the dads I work with, but, like, your wife is a terrible accountability partner. Like,
agreed.
I'm a terrible accountability partner for my wife, because I know what she does throughout the day. She watches the kids all day. She watches other kids throughout the day. She's up super early. She typically stays up pretty late. And then I know what she does. So then for me to go tell her, like, hey, you should probably go work out today. It's like, so it's like, I think that's, the value of a coach, because somebody else is keeping you accountable and stuff. And, like, I have, just developed a habit over the years of, working out. And so, like, I'm pretty good at keeping myself accountable, but I still will hire a coach from time to time to get a new program or something, because I can get very complacent. I'm kind of doing the same things. I'm working on these things, and then I'm wondering why, like, my back hurt or things like that, And so it's like, just seeing people who aren't living with you a lot of times can view the situation a little more clearly too.
100%. I mean, I've yet to see much success between spouses holding each other accountable on a journey. Yeah, it's tough. I've worked with quite a few, like, married couples coming into the program over the years, and it's great because I can talk to them each individually, and that they each give me the information, the struggles, the whatever's going on. Because what can happen in a relationship, you're living together, especially if you're married, like, you're living together, you might disagree on something, and then what's going to happen? You're going to bicker about it. Maybe none of you guys get your work done, or you say, screw it, this is too hard, and, like, you give up. So I 100% agree. It took me 3 tries, being my wife's, I'll call her, let's say her coach over time. Like, when I was younger, I'd help her out in the gym. I was very inexperienced. I didn't have the experience of talking to different people and different
Yeah.
personalities that I do. As we get older, helping her see like that you don't need to be perfect is a big one, and just helping her be consistent, and just we really started to develop that to the point where she was able to do her workouts on her own. Nutrition got dialed in on her own, and I think that's a big part of like having a coach, ideally not your spouse, guide you through a process, and as you said earlier, give you tools to be able to do this for yourself. Because I think that's another big thing that we haven't really touched on, is the fact that people look for, and I think dads do this too, and you can attest this more than me because I work with more moms, but they look for I just need that program and I need the meal plan and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And you and I both know 9 times out of 10 that's bullshit.
Yeah. I think I've done that too. Just find a workout program. We could sit here for the next couple hours and talk about all the different courses I've bought over the years and programs and all this stuff, and taken bits and pieces and done it for a couple weeks. And but I think that's the key. I've done it for a couple weeks. I didn't have somebody guiding me through it. And to be honest, a lot of these programs, like if you stuck with it, you probably get pretty decent results, right? But like when maybe the unfortunate circumstance, like a family member passes away and you're out of town, or your kid's birthday party, or, Thanksgiving, Christmas, those are always the big ones. We got Thanksgiving coming, we got Christmas. Well, that's 2 days out of the next 2 months, it's like, and so it's just like having, just a workout program probably isn't going to get you where you want to go. Some people, that's all they need. Some people are just, the David Goggins of the world, they go and work out, they just push through no matter what. And so, but, not everybody's built that way. And a lot of times, people don't know how to navigate, especially if you didn't grow up with my parents weren't like overweight or anything, but they weren't very active. My mom would go on walks and exercise videos, but my dad never went to the gym. He was in the military before I was born, but I never saw them work out really, you know what I mean? And so it's a lot of this, we're learning on our own, right? We're learning on our own, and sometimes you just need someone to help you. And there's so much information online. Everything you need is there for free. Everything you need is there for free, but unfortunately, you don't know how to decipher what's good, what's bad. And by the time somebody actually realizes, hey, I need some help, they have years and years of bad programming. And so it requires a professional to kind of help them, this probably isn't true, And one of the things, too, is, if somebody's not committed, ready to sign a program, I tell them, this is what you tell me you want to do. Try it for 30 days. Report back. Tell me what you need. Tell me how it went. Tell me what you struggled. And almost every single person comes back. I started it for a while, and then I got off work late one night or something. You know what I mean? It's kind of comes back to that all or nothing mentality and things like that. And I think the value of coaching, probably the biggest value is, one, the accountability, like we talked about, but two is the mindset. The nutrition and fitness, nutrition and exercise, super important. But if you go through a 12-month long transformation, but your mindset doesn't shift, you'll eventually end up right back where you were.
Yeah. Well, that's, you so many good nuggets there. The biggest thing I think with people just following programs, any exercise is better than no exercise. You and I can both agree on that. But if someone has a specific goal, you want to lose 20 pounds, I had a call with a gentleman yesterday. As you're listening to this live, it'll be last week, but he's gained and lost the same 20 over the last couple of years. So it gets to a point where, okay, what is really happening? And I think to no fault of their own, a lot of people just, they don't know what the issue is. And that, again, it's not their fault because they're not trained in this stuff, right? I often say I'll never try to fix my own car. I don't know what I'm doing. And that's maybe take away my man card or whatever, my dad card. But I hadn't, no one had taught me about cars. I started driving late. So that's something that I'll always go to the professionals for. Yeah. With fitness and nutrition, I think because it's so common, I think people just assume that they can tackle it on their own. And I
Everybody
think
eats,
that's
right? Yeah.
yeah, everybody eats. You know, the gym is, you know, it's pretty straightforward,
Yeah.
or they just do cardio, they default. But it's like one of those things where you can make the journey so much longer or so much shorter to get to the end result you want, depending
Mhm.
on your path to get there. Like if you are trying to white knuckle it and figure out every single thing on your own and struggle and repeat and fall off this program and fall off that job, it's going to take forever. And what happens is most people just quit. A couple years go by, they try 4 or 5 different things for, you know, 2 to 4 months at a time, maybe, and they're like, you know what, this is too hard. I'm just to stop, and they just go back to old habits. And I think the biggest thing, as you said, with coaching accountability, what I've really come to realize, helping people navigate different life things, like
Mhm.
getting laid off work. Oh, I ate this. Because what happens, people default of like, oh, I went off my meal plan. I feel bad. Let's go cheat. Let's go eat whatever.
Yeah.
Having a coach can help you navigate, you know, why did that happen? Here's what to do next time. Really help you strategize. You know, if the gym's busy, what substitutions can you make instead of just giving up all entirely? You
Yeah.
know, the little things like that, I think,
Yeah.
go overlooked, of like when the journey isn't an easy, I shouldn't say easy, but a straight path. Sometimes it is.
Mm.
When we have a curveball or a speed bump, a lot of people are just like, this is too much. I can't do this on my own. I can't navigate it. To me, that's coaching right there. Helping people navigate.
Yeah.
The amount of things that have happened over people's lives the last 2 years, especially, to help them navigate, has been between moves, like you said, moves, holidays, family passings. I went through one of those. Like the shit, life is stressful. So would you rather not have someone help, support, and guide you through it? Or would you rather essentially suffer and try to figure it out on your own on top of everything else you're doing in life? Like, to me, the decision is a no-brainer. That's why I have a coach too. Like, I don't see myself ever not having a coach, just because I don't want to figure it out for myself anymore. I did that, just like you, in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, I think, there is no straight path to kind of get to where you want to be, but there's a straighter path. And,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I made a post the other day about, no one has ever said, I'm really glad I got in great shape. I'm really glad I lost the weight, but I wish I would have waited a couple years. Like nobody ever wishes that, like whether that's business or anything, like
Hmm.
I was really successful, but I wish I could have had the success later. Like I
Yeah.
wish I could have had more time with my kids a couple years from now. It's like nobody like no. And I think that's hard too, because like even if you're, no matter what you're trying to improve, like people always look at like, well, what happens if it doesn't work? And
Hmm.
we're kind of ingrained in that mindset instead of looking
Yeah.
at like, well, how could this benefit me? How could I win? How could I win
Yeah.
big here and stuff? And like even if you sign up for a coaching program and you didn't get the results that you wanted, you now have feedback. You
Yeah.
now have like what didn't work, why
Hmm.
didn't it work, and it's just kind of looking back and kind of reflecting like, like, okay, so I spent the past 2 months dialing in on my nutrition, dialing in on, my fitness and stuff, and I'm not anywhere near where I want to be. Well, were you actually as consistent as you thought you were? Like, were you tracking, like things like that? How can we get a little bit more detailed and stuff? And so everything's feedback. Everything's feedback what you're doing, and like a coach is going to help you decipher that. Kind
Hmm.
of like I know you've talked about like the scale too. Like, the scale is a tool. The scale is a great tool, but that's what it is. It's just a tool, right? It's measurements. You can measure your bicep. It could be the same size after 12 weeks, but if you've been hitting the weights like crazy, like the composition of the bicep is gonna.
Yeah.
So everything, nothing means anything without context to it, and that's what a coach can help you kind of decipher. And kind of like what you said there, like the past couple of years have been crazy, but like your whole life has probably been crazy.
Yeah.
You add
Seriously.
you add kids into the mix. It's like you're never like I have made it a point to kind of keep myself accountable to schedule my weeks in advance. Like I put everything on the calendar, but
Yep.
every week I had to switch things around. Things come up. Like my wife had a doctor's appointment this morning that got rescheduled, and so like you had to switch things around. And if you're not, you're not willing to have a little flexibility. If you have, well, I didn't get to the gym today, I guess I'll start again next Monday. Like, you're going to constantly be struggling until you get to the point where, your weight is an issue where it's causing, heart issues, or you find yourself in the hospital, or, the scary part, like maybe you don't make it past 60. You don't get to see your kids grow up. And those things don't, they don't sound real. They don't sound real, but like where you are right now is the accumulation of the choices you made up until this point. And so where you want to go in 10 years from now, it's just small, tiny things, right? And it's just kind of what you can do on the daily. If you can only, work out once a week, but you're able to walk for an hour each day or something like that, or maybe you don't like strength training, you don't have to do it right now. Maybe you could add it later. Just because you don't like something right now doesn't mean you're never going to like it. And just because you don't have time right now, if you have young kids, you're not sleeping well, going to the gym 5 days a week probably isn't the best thing in the world. And so kind of like that on and off switch, right? Instead of turning it off, you just dial it down a little bit.
Nice.
Maybe you can't work out 3 days a week. You can only do 1 day a week. When things slow down, when your daughter's sleeping 6 hours straight instead of 6 minutes straight, you can dial it back up a little bit and stuff.
True.
And so I think it's just, and that's I think that's the value of like me having a coach too, in a bunch of different areas of my life, is where they help you kind of navigate through some of those things, because you're going to have times that are going really well, and you're going to have times that aren't going well, and kind of like what you learn about yourself during those times that you struggle, are going to be probably the most beneficial.
Absolutely. Yeah. Life is ebb and flow. It always will be. Like, I had a call with a client today. She's a mom. Life's been kind of hectic, right? Full-time job, her daughter's in and out of daycare. Like here in Ontario, if you get sick, if I get the slightest symptom of something, like you got to go home. Like it can be pretty bad. But so she's been like at home taking care of her daughter and at work and balancing fitness, and just like having that ability to pivot when you need to pivot, I think is the biggest thing. Where, like I said earlier, people really struggle with that on or off switch, like you said, where they're getting all their workouts in or they're not getting any workouts in, which is it's kind of a really terrible place to be, because nobody that ever got in great shape lived that way. It's never, like you said, it's never a straight path. There's always going to be rough times, and it's learning how to navigate when it isn't easy. To me, it's the most important skill you can build, is that resiliency. Like, okay, well, I can't go to the gym today. What can I do instead? Or that's fine. I'll just double down my efforts on my nutrition. Yeah. Make sure I hit my calories, make sure I get my protein. I can go for a walk. If anything, I'll get my workout in tomorrow. Like, it becomes, I think we put in maybe too much emphasis on one day and not enough across weeks. Yeah. Like, the scale will bump. Scale's going to bump, but it'll go back down. Right. So it's one of those things. If you're the type of person who goes out on weekends and has a bit more calories, you're going to have a higher weigh-in on Mondays. That's normal. Like, it doesn't mean you ruin things, as long as you're consistent for the majority of the week, and it becomes accumulation over time, like you said. And I want to just go back briefly, because I think it was interesting where you said about how, like, thinking into your 50s and 60s and being around for your kids, like, long term. Like, so my wife lost her dad relatively young, wasn't even 60. My mom wasn't even 60. I had a call with a guy whose father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all passed in their 30s. And he just turned 30. And he was like, this is an eye-opener for me. Yeah. Like, family history alone is scary. Like, my dad didn't really work out. He's not a good eater, smoker, like, just tons of health issues. And this kind of brings it all in. Like, I want to be around for my kids, so I want to feel my best. If I show up my best, then they get my best, and I can kind of display healthy habits, so we build a lifestyle there for the family, so I don't have to worry about me leaving early, and then they can grow up in that kind of healthy mindset already, instead of trying to like do what I did over my teenage years and 20s and just struggling. I don't want my two boys to go through what I went through in high school. It's not fun. So it's kind of just like, you're going to have multiple whys. I think you're going to want to do it for yourself. You're going to want to do it for your kids. Maybe you want to do it for a better relationship. There's going to be lots of different things. It comes down to, like, having support, and I think this is kind of the theme, is just having support through it and being able to navigate and ebb and flow through kind of some of the shit, the mud that you'll go through. Because it's, you can attest this. You'll have weeks where you feel like Superman, like nothing can stop you. And then you'll have weeks where you're like, you can't even get moving. You feel like you're not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. My grandma, my dad's stepmom, she passed away when she was 60. And a few years later, her brother passed away at 60 as well. And like, that's not that old. Like, my parents are close to that age. My wife's parents are a little older than that age. And it's like, to me, like, and to be honest, they passed away from things that could have been prevented. And although it's sad, like, it is sad that they're gone, like, you miss them, but I think it's more sad at all the stuff they're missing out on. They don't get to see their grandkids. Yeah. They don't get to see, 60 is not very old at all. And I think that's one thing that, that's made me focus a little bit more, especially as I've gotten older, on cardio. Cardio is demonized for a long time about fat loss and stuff, but like, cardio is great for your health and heart health and stuff. And my cardio is terrible if I never focused on it. And that's one thing, it's like I could probably give up a strength training session here and there to, go for a jog or something. But it's just like little things like that. It's like I don't want to miss out on those things. Like I knew for a long time that I wanted to. I liked coaching in person, but it takes up so much time. Yeah. And so now, like, fortunately, like, I get to work from home. I get to see my kids more than probably most people do. And like, to me, like, I would never change that. That's awesome to me. And it's like, to me, like, that's the most important thing. It doesn't really matter. Like you said, it doesn't matter how much you can bench. Like, when I was 19, I could bench about twice my body weight, and nobody cares. It's like, nobody has ever signed up to work with me because they were like, remember 10 years ago when you and so it's like, but my kids care a lot more that, I can run around with them, right? If like, they go to the park with my wife and I'm sitting there laying on the floor because my back hurts, they'll remember that much more than, how I looked with my shirt off. And so, balancing those two things, your own goals there, and then also like what your priorities and what your values are, I think is really important too.
I love it, man. That's huge. Unfortunately, I got to wrap this up shortly. I got to go pick up my son from school. But if you could leave us with a golden nugget to put you on the spot, and then where people can find you.
Yeah. I would say the number one thing is prioritize yourself. It's hard as a dad. It's hard as a parent. I know you work with moms too, and it's really hard for moms. It's really hard for moms. And so, just finding that time to take care of yourself, if you're in a better headspace, you start eating a little healthier, moving a little bit more. You're not only going to see improvements in your own life, but your kids are going to see that too, and they're going to get the best version of you. So scheduling time, hopefully each day to take care of yourself, but definitely each week. So
absolutely, man. I love it. Where can everyone find you online?
Yeah, so you can go on Instagram. It's probably the main one at Pluff Training. Pluff, my last name, Pluff, Pluff Training. And then I also have a podcast of my own, the Fatherhood Fitness podcast. So moms, you might not want to listen. No, we have a lot of good guests on there too. Different trainers and clients and things like that. So Fatherhood Fitness podcast, iTunes or Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, the main. But I think there's some other places too, but I don't remember where it gets all
That's distributed. Fine. Yeah, this is distributed everywhere too.
Yeah. Wherever you listen to your podcast. But
nice.
So, yeah.
Awesome, man. I'll put everything in the show notes. But awesome. Yeah, man, thanks again for taking the time. Always love chatting with you, and just this was fun because we can dig a little deeper in things too.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, and hopefully we gave some value today.
Awesome, man. Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon, man.